Yeah, I am so glad you joined me for the Hoverboard Academy. I am Guru Stu, and I am going to today, right now, tell you about three different types of strength. The first is linear, and then the second is rotational, and then the third is what we call patience. The first is just where you're taking an object and moving it up or sideways, and you do it in like an one direction, an X direction, as physicists would call it, a Y direction, as other physicists might call it, and then a Z direction. And that's all it is linear strength, lifting your body, moving your body forward. And then the other type of strength is where you do two at once. That's rotational strength. And to demonstrate that, this is called a perspective. And when people, you need to, in order for you to be successful with your dreams of riding a hoverboard, and actually like making that a reality, there are two things that you need to be concerned about. One is going to be all of your linear strength, like how can you move in a line through the world, and then rotational strength, and how do you know how to pivot. Now you can see here, I have these controllers. And my idea for the augmented reality game experience, right now, if I put on those goggles, I can have that hooked up to the back end of a game that I want to call the Hoverboard Academy. And I put my controllers on backwards. So, what the controllers do, the way that the experience begins is that you have your controllers, and what you want to do with those controllers is rotate them one way and rotate them the other way. And when you can do a quarter turn, well, that was a half turn, but if you can do a quarter turn, it reads, there's a command called get rotation. And what that command does is it says, oh my gosh, you just did a quarter turn, and it will make an arc of fire. And what that does is it taps into a very primitive identity of who we are, because we are, like, as human beings, as far as we know, the first fire makers, fire controllers on the planet. And it's extremely rewarding to actually do that in reality in your life at some point, to know the process of making fire from rubbing sticks together. However, with this game, we're tapping into that. When you enter into the game, even before you start to make fire, the when you put the goggles on, what happens is it's your goggles have cameras on the front to be able to sense depth of field, and they're made for depth of field more than they're made for like a visual. And so it's all in black and white, like the Wizard of Oz with Dorothy. And yeah, so you enter into this virtual reality space, and then you hang on to the controllers, and then when you can rotate them at a quarter and a half, flames light up. And when you do a 3/4 turn, then other flames will light up. And then when you do a full turn, then flames will light up. And then if you touch the perspective, the get rotation command will come out of the cameras that are on the front of the reality experience. And when that happens, you enter into a new, a more dynamic, colorful space of virtual reality. So probably take these off now. Because there's some camera footage that I think would be more interesting if I do it with holding the stick. So first, to get comfortable on, this is called a perspective. If I first get comfortable on this perspective, usually most people would probably be most comfortable having their foot on the tangent like so, with the arch of the foot towards the outside. And what I'm doing right now is I'm just doing like real small pushes. Eighth turns. Yeah. And then if I take my foot and I put it on the other side, I'll also get some really good pushes. Now it is possible to go forward, but if you lead with, I think it's probably, since we're using this as a tool to learn about rotational strength, then we get to, I don't know, I heard back in a yoga class a long time ago that it's a good idea to lead with your weakest side. When you're doing yoga poses, you gotta do both sides, right? And if you lead with your weakest side, then you can, when you get to that strong side, it's fairly easy. And with most people, probably pushing backwards is the thing that they're not very used to. With the skateboard, there's usually no reason to push backwards. With roller skating, when you do that, that'll be a more advanced trick of being able to roller skate backwards. As well with unicycles, getting on a unicycle and just initiating it to go backwards is not an easy task. Yeah. And then to keep variety, I want to show you some. Everybody will find that there's a different place where things are super easy and where things are not. Like, let's do these. With these 8-pound weights, you enter into the physics experiment where we learn about moments of inertia and maybe even an ability to talk about the Higgs field, that like all governing mysterious force. Yeah. And so it's a rotational intelligence. To be aware of the rotational intelligence or rotational strength, this is it. This is probably the safest way to go about doing it. Backwards. If you've never done forwards before, that would look like this. It's kind of like, it feels a lot like pushing off on a skateboard. And yeah, but backwards for me seems to be like, it's a move rather than just something. Like when humans grab a hold of a frisbee, it's possible that they could do a throw, a sidearm throw. But generally, the backhand throw is the winner. The sidearm will be the most natural for people to do, but the backhand is the one that we all go for. You watch kids pick up frisbees and they'll just throw it like this, and they don't get the right turn on it, so they give up. So they'll throw it like this and then have success. Similar of this style, where I think we're probably going to long-term best off with leading backwards. Yeah. Because when you step back on those heels, you're going to go into the center line to be able to find your spin. When you kick, if the arms are out wide with the kick, that gives you the ability to pull in after you kick. And that's going to be critical for when you're moving forward and when you're moving backward. The problem that people have with electric unicycles is understanding how it will turn and how it will go forward. So that's what the perspective gives us the ability to do. It gives us the ability to understand what's happening with rotation, and then then you will also know where leaning is giving you imbalance. And it really does. It's so hard to be able to differentiate whether or not you are actually on the wheel. And wobbles essentially will happen when your center of mass is outside the place of where the wheel can hold you. And what the wheel is doing is it's just kind of flopping into your existence to keep you alive there. As opposed, and here, what you get the ability to do is understand that when you're flopping out of existence, pushing on the wheel in any direction is not going to help you at all. That may just put you into a space that's further away from the wheel. But if you can isolate what is twist, you can insist that you turn it in the direction that you want to go. As you can see, I'm trying to resist. I'm trying to resist the motion of, let's see, this will be counter. I'm resisting clock right now to go counter. And now I'm going clock here. So wild. Yeah. And little by little, where we place the weights in the world, you gain intelligence. There are so many muscles in my body right now that because I'm not aware of exactly where I can hold the circle, and I'm still coming in a little bit, that's why I get all of these little wobbles that are so difficult to still funk with. And that's why you'll see people on unicycles that are just initially getting going where their bodies are just all over the place because they haven't figured out their perspective. Thank you so much for being patient and listening to this whole video. Welcome to the Hoverboard Academy. If you know anyone that does stuff with augmented reality and they know how to work the Unreal Engine and how to use blueprints and mesh patterns, it would be so wonderful to get that going a little bit better. And if anybody wants to learn unicycles, it's probably a good idea to buy one as soon as possible. Y'all are great and wonderful.